Hey folks, it's Thunderbolt and I am back again with another video. I was able to record this right after the video where I spoke about the canon of Dragon Ball. I highly recommend you to watch that video before watching this one because in that video I explained how Dragon Ball has different continuities, different timelines, and how GT was one of them. So I want to touch more upon that topic in the sense if you're a fan of Dragon Ball, you may or may not have heard that Dragon Ball GT is connected to the Dragon Ball Z movies, right? If you have not heard that, you might have at least heard that the Dragon Ball Z movies themselves are connected to each other. Since in the previous video I mentioned how GT has its own timeline, and I also did say that the movies and specials are included in that timeline, in this video I'm gonna tell you exactly which movies and which specials are connected to Dragon Ball GT. With proof, okay, with proof. And all of this starts with Cooler. In the Super 17 arc, when the forces of Hell attack Earth, Cooler is shown to be one of them. So if Cooler is in Dragon Ball GT, we know that both the Cooler movies, Cooler's Revenge and The Return of Cooler, are both connected to GT. Continuing with that trend, we also see Trunks use the Brave Sword, which is Tapion's sword, in the opening sequence of Dragon Ball GT. So that basically means that Wrath of the Dragon, the movie in which Trunks gets this sword, is also canon to GT. So we added that here. Another thing that gives us huge insight on which movies are connected to GT is the sacred water from the Gallic Jr. saga. So in the Gallic Jr. saga of Dragon Ball Z, there's a thing called the sacred water, which allows people to not be brainwashed, or it cures an individual who has been brainwashed, and it is a very important item in the Baby Saga. So we know that the Gallic Jr. saga is connected to Dragon Ball GT. If the Gallic Jr. saga is connected to Dragon Ball GT, that means Dead Zone, the movie in which Gallic Jr. makes his debut, is also connected to Dragon Ball GT. So we have added that over here. I'm trying to order these in the order of the timeline that they might go. So like Dead Zone is first, then we have the Cooler movies, then Wrath of the Dragon, and then GT. Moving on, this is one of the biggest things that connects a lot of movies together. Plan to Eradicate the Saiyans, also created by Toei Animation. So in Plan to Eradicate the Saiyans, you see Turles, Slug, and Cooler all together, and the characters recognize these villains. And you also see Goku mention Hachiak's power might be greater than Broly's. So we have three new mentions. We have Turles, we have Lord Slug, and we have Broly. That means the Tree of Might, Lord Slug movie, and all three Broly movies are also connected to GT. So we're gonna add all of them right here. Boom. See, the list is getting bigger and bigger. And the funny thing is that Gohan's pet dragon Icarus appears in these three movies. He appears in the Tree of Might, he appears in Lord Slug, and he appears in The Return of Cooler. That in itself confirms that these three movies are in the same timeline. And then obviously we move on to the greatest of all time, Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, right? So we all know that Goku and Vegeta did the fusion dance and became Gogeta to fight Omega Shenron. But how in the world did Vegeta know the fusion dance? The only other place we have seen him actually learn the fusion dance is in the Dragon Ball Z movie Fusion Reborn. So let's add Fusion Reborn to the list. And speaking of Fusion Reborn, there is another character that shows up in Fusion Reborn. That character is none other than Bojack. You see Bojack and his goons also in this one shot where Frieza comes to take over Earth again when Hell opens up. So we know that Bojack Unbound is also canon to Dragon Ball GT, or at least connected to. I'm using the word connected because we don't know for sure if they fit in the timeline or not, because we know that it is very difficult to place all these movies in the timeline. So I'm not going to use the word canon, I'm going to use the word connected. So Bojack Unbound is connected to Dragon Ball GT. So we've added that as well. Woof, man, the list just keeps getting bigger. But luckily now there's only two more entries to be had. Um, if you look over here, this is a panel from the Dragon Ball Z manga in which Frieza recognizes Goku to be the son of Bardock, and you can see Bardock wearing his green armor and red bandana. So this is OG Bardock. Fun fact, Toriyama was not the one who created Bardock. The Toei Animation created Bardock in Bardock the Father of Goku, and Toriyama really liked him, so he added him to his manga, and he looks exactly the same as he did in the special. So we know for sure that the special is connected to Dragon Ball Z. Oh, this scene takes place in the Z anime as well. So you see OG Bardock in the Z anime as well. So since Dragon Ball GT is the sequel to the Z anime, we know that Bardock the Father of Goku is also connected to Dragon Ball GT. And because Bardock the Father of Goku is also connected, that means its sequel, the episode of Bardock, which was also made by Toei Animation. The manga was not made by Toei Animation, but the anime episode special was, right? And the funny thing is, the person who wrote the episode of Bardock special, like the manga, also is in charge of creating Dragon Ball SD, which is like a very cute little fun chibi Dragon Ball manga where a lot of wacky things happen. I highly recommend you to read it. It's pretty cool. So yeah, let's add the two Bardock specials as well, and that's the end of the list. So the Dragon Ball movies and specials that are connected to Dragon Ball GT in order are Bardock the Father of Goku, episode of Bardock, Dead Zone, Tree of Might, Lord Slug, Cooler's Revenge, Return of Cooler, Broly the Legendary Super Saiyan, Plan to Eradicate the Saiyans, BoJack Unbound, Broly Second Coming, Bio Broly, Fusion Reborn, and finally Wrath of the Dragon, which all leads into Dragon Ball GT. So if you really look at this, the only two movies that are missing are World's Strongest, in which Dr. Vilo shows up, and Super Android 30. Those movies have nothing to do with GT. And it makes you wonder, like, even without those two movies, how the hell are you gonna fit all these movies into one timeline? Because as far as we know, Dragon Ball Z's timeline is like pretty restrictive. Like events are happening one after the other, and it's very hard to place these movies in that. Which is why I am gonna torture myself. I have given myself the task of creating the GT timeline. In the sense, there are a lot of theories regarding how the movies fit into the timeline. For example, one big theory is that Dead Zone takes place in an alternate universe where the Z fighters already know about Gohan. So that way Dead Zone can happen 1 year before Raditz shows up, and that's why the Dragon Balls are still active, and basically Dead Zone will then fit beautifully into the timeline, right? So basically you have to make tiny changes to the main timeline without really changing the main story. So like the main Z plot points are going to remain the same as much as possible. Just tiny little details like this, that oh, Bulma has already met Gohan. She met him a year ago, that's all. You know, that things like that are what will make it possible for someone to create a full GT timeline. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to watch every single one of these movies, and I'm going to do my best to place them where I can in the timeline. And I'm also going to pay attention to a lot of things like the clothes that they're wearing, Trunks' hairstyle. In some movies it's longer, which means he's come out of the hyperbolic time chamber. In some movies it's shorter, which means it was before he entered the time chamber. Things like that. So you got to pay attention to all these minute things. And I'm going to do my best to create a full-on timeline where all these movies can fit without really changing Dragon Ball Z's story, and that way we will know the exact timeline for Dragon Ball GT. Hell yeah, let's go. So that's gonna be a whole different video. Okay, that's not gonna be this video, because otherwise this video would be way too long. So stay tuned for the GT timeline video. Alright, I'm kind of excited for this, and if I really am able to make a proper timeline with all these movies included, and we know what the GT timeline is, based on the events that take place in the GT timeline, we can actually in the future make a proper power scale for GT where we know the exact proper power levels. Now that we know the order of events, what happens when, how it happens, we can easily make a proper power scale for GT. Because If I just use the power levels that I got from my Dragon Ball manga power scale series, it's not gonna work because it'll be inaccurate then. Because in all these movies, the characters go through experiences that make them stronger, right? So the power levels are different. Power levels keep changing, they keep increasing, right? But if you don't factor that in and only use the manga power levels for GT, it'll be inaccurate. So maybe in the future, I'll do it. It'll be a huge task. We'll see. I don't know if I have the strength to do that, but if I get the love and support from you guys, I will 100% definitely do it. I hope you like this video, and please leave a like, subscribe. I will see you all in the next one.